Hello, today I'll answer the questions that you asked me in comments. By the way, recently I translated very interesting report from Mariupol 2022 about the life in the city. It's available for everyone for free on my Boosty. There are also some similar reports for my sponsors. I'm really grateful to all people who supported me, and if you want to see more videos, you can send me a donation on Boosty. It will help me a lot. And after I post this video, I'll start working on some very interesting content. Now let's go to the questions. The answers for the questions about Nazis are in the video about Ukrainian totalitarianism, which I translated. There were a lot of members of Nazi organizations who integrated into Ukrainian government and law enforcement agencies. Speaking about southern and eastern Ukrainian, most knew about them, but since Ukrainian propaganda tried to convince us that they are nationalists, not Nazis, and they are good guys, some people liked them. Many Ukrainians consider them defenders of freedom. Speaking about governmental tools they had, Nazis not only influenced the government, they had civil organizations which were stronger than the government itself. I can't say that I'm biased due to my past experience. I was 16 years old when the war started, and I didn't really care about politics. Before the war I read some neutral articles about the Donbas war, and I didn't like Ukraine, but again I didn't really care about all of this. And to be honest, I really didn't like Ukrainian language, Ukrainian literature in school, and all this crazy propaganda, these events, Ukrainian flags everywhere, but now it doesn't matter anyways. And about psychological after effects in Donbas, a lot of people are afraid to talk about politics publicly. There are Telegram channels posting personal data of people who support in Russia. They promise to punish us when Ukraine returns Mariupol, and many people in 2022 were scared to work for Russia because of this. But this is changing because now it's obvious that there is no chance that Ukraine will return, and people no longer care about such channels. Question about the recruitment of former Ukrainian citizens. People in DPR and LPR militia were citizens of Ukraine. Also there is Sudoplatov's battalion, which is formed from volunteers from Kherson and Zaporozhye regions, and of course Crimean units. In 2022 there was conscription in DPR and LPR, but the rest are volunteers or professional military. About DPR and LPR army. If you're asking about 2014, there were a lot of captured equipment. I suppose there were supplies from Russia, but from what I've heard it was very old and often in bad condition. Last spring I interviewed a rebel from Mariupol. You can watch that video if you want to know more. I also want to mention first tank of the militia, which is Is-8. It was a monument for 50 years, and I really love the video where rebels start in it. It sounds like ASMR to me. It's confirmed that this tank captured Ukrainian checkpoint, then he participated in some battles, but unfortunately at the end Ukrainians captured it and returned on its place as a monument. And no, I didn't interact with Azov members. Are people in Russia aware of how exactly they are being portrayed in the West? It's a very complicated topic. On the one hand, Russians understand that for the West we are uncivilized barbarians, because Western propaganda saying that we are living without infrastructure and eating hedgehogs. But even I was shocked when I visited Reddit for the first time. So many comments saying that Russians can't create anything or that Russians are always lying. Russians have no idea how hard Reddit soy boys are trying to dehumanize us. About the quality of life in Mariupol. The situation with water supply is critical, water once or 2 days for 4 hours, but aside of this everything is okay. There are a lot of problems of course, but none of them are critical. It's unpleasant to have stray dogs on streets, but it doesn't get in the way of daily life. And despite problem with housing is important, most of citizens live in their apartments. If it weren't for the water problem, I would say that life in Mariupol is good. How are people in Mariupol feeling about war these days? You will be surprised, but people live peaceful life. The war is not affecting them, but of course people want this war to end. Most understand that real peace can be achieved only after Ukraine will be completely defeated, but many just want any peace treaty as soon as possible. The Western influence in Ukraine is strong, but there is no direct control. Ukraine is more or less independent. It keeps destroying itself now because of its own society and government, not because of European leaders, even though the EU leaders are supporting this course. Cars have Russian plates, 80 or 180 is the number for DPR, 81 or 181 for LPR, etc. Some people of course still have independent DPR or even Ukrainian plates, but there are fewer and fewer of them. Speaking about networks, now that there are many of them, most people still have Phoenix, DPR operator, but now there are better choices. Some operators from mainland Russia already entered DPR officially, but some are still working in roaming. There are a few internet providers. In Mariupol, most popular one is probably DPR Trinity. Yes, I'm planning to translate the documentary about Azov, but much later. It will probably take a lot of time, and maybe I'll crowdfund it on my Boosty. I've met some Mariupol Greeks. They aren't really different from other citizens. Donetsk and Makiivka are very depressing cities, still no water and most of young people left. These cities are also looking frozen in time. Maybe I'll make a video, but not in the near future. About the fuel shortage. Yes, it's true, but seems like in Mariupol it was dealt with, because now prices are lower than in other parts of new territories. But in other places situation is worse, especially in Crimea. Donetsk also has problems with it. Strange question about DPR and LPR. I thought it's obvious that people chose to be part of Russia because life standards in the independent DPR were far worse than with Russia. Most people in Mariupol understand that there will be no peace until Ukrainian government changes. And I think yes, many would like to see more cities as part of Russia. Personally, I want to visit Odessa, because I never was there. Some people are hostile towards people from Ukraine, but most just feel sorry for them. They are sacrificed for nothing. And of course a lot of people have relatives in Ukraine. Speaking about people coming back to Donetsk, I am not sure. Russia already invested a lot of money, but I don't know how such a big city can be revived, because it rotten for 11 years, and there is still no water. An interesting question about communism. I liked leftist ideas, but I didn't study them fundamentally. I planned to read the Communist Manifesto and Capital, but I didn't have time and just forgot about it. Maybe I'll do it in the future. The question about Azovstal. Azovstal is huge, so it's a big amount of work. And DPR has a lot of other problems to deal with. Water situation is the same. I made a short video 2 months ago, nothing changed. And about this war, I think it will be over in a year or two, because Ukraine has lack of manpower, and even TCK can't change the situation. People in Mariupol hate Zelensky. No one fears possible attacks because front line is too far. There are problems with water, energy network is being updated, so sometimes there are power outages. No issues with the gas. The city is different than under Ukraine. I would say it's two different cities, and it's very hard to compare. People just accepted the fact that they are Russians, and no one really cares. A month ago I made a video where I explained that there is very few difference between Ukrainians from the east and center and Russians. 4 questions. First, almost all of Central Asian workers left back in 2024. There are still some of them, but very few compared to 2023. Second, Russia is planning to turn Azovstal into an industrial park, but this project still wasn't started. And about Mariupol beaches, beach sites are very popular among citizens, although I'm not sure if it can become a vacation spot in the future. Russian resorts on the Black Sea are very popular. I don't know if Mariupol will be able to become as successful. And about military presence, yes, there are many soldiers. Unemployment benefits are unpopular in both Russia and Ukraine, and the payments are very low. But speaking about pension for old and disabled people, they are much bigger in Russia. I found an information that average pension in DPR is approximately 230 euro, against 130 euros in Ukraine. But to be honest, in both Russia and Ukraine, it's very hard to survive only on pension. I think it would be a good idea to answer such comments for $10 donation on Boosty, but anyway. First, no idea what do you mean by the same? About neonazis, well, because it's insignificant. Rusisch is the only group and it isn't praised anywhere, like Azov. People know Rusisch only because they are neonazis, while there are thousands of murals and posters about the Azov heroes across the whole Ukraine. By the way, there is very few data on Rusisch, I couldn't even find the number of members. And Azov official YouTube channel has almost 1 million subscribers. About rights restrictions? Which rights restrictions? I don't see anything. People have same Russian passports as Russians from other regions. About language? Russia is not demanding anything like this. People speak the language they want to speak. Now back to normal questions. First, Ukraine is drafting men over 25. Probably Zelensky knows that this war won't last for 3 years, and people below 22 won't fight anyway. Second, in 2014, the Nazi groups were the main reason for people to rebel. And about Ukrainian crimes, on the one hand, Ukrainian propaganda is silent about human rights violations by Ukrainian authorities. On the other hand, people in Ukraine are brainwashed to support anything that is against pro-Russian people. Ukraine successfully dehumanized separatists. Same applies to other Ukrainian crimes. People don't know or don't want to know. Speaking about corruption, it's a very complicated topic. The corruption in Mariupol was thrown under Ukraine, and now it's also thrown. Ukraine is less corrupted than DPR, but much more corrupted than Russia. Mariupol now has many people from DPR or even Ukrainian administration in government. But at the same time, Russia tries to fight corruption. I think the situation will improve. About Mariupol airport, I only know that there are plans to make Mariupol airport international before 2030. I stopped talking with my friends from Ukraine back in 2022. You can ask me something in the comments under this video if you want to, and I'll answer your comments. Thanks for watching.